Good evening. I'm Susan Drummond, City of Pasco hearing examiner. Today is Wednesday evening, about 6 p.m., August 12th, 2020. We have just one item on the agenda. This is a request for 5 variances for the Pathfinder Mobile Home Park. The matter number is HE 2020-003. We are holding a remote hearing due to the COVID-19 situation. But the order of procedure will be much the same as if we were live. The planning department will provide a summary of the proposal, and I have reviewed the staff report and attached exhibits. Following that, the applicant will have an opportunity to present. Microphones will be unmuted to allow for that. And then following the applicant's presentation, we'll open this up for public comment on anyone who has called in and wishes to testify on the proposal may do so. And again, we'll unmute the microphone to allow for that. With all of these remote hearings, I've been keeping the record open for at least a few days, just in case there's anyone who wanted to call in, wanted to testify, but for whatever reason had technical difficulty with doing so. And I'll make an announcement at the conclusion about how long the record will be held open until. So I think with that, are there any procedural questions? And if we can briefly unmute the microphones to allow for that, otherwise we'll move forward.
We're good to go.
Okay. Hearing none.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Adams, are you presenting this evening?
No, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I was just making sure that the one attendee we do have had the opportunity to speak, but looks like they are muted at this point.
Okay. So anything further to address before the matter is presented?
Nope.
No. Okay. All right. And Mr. Adams, are you presenting?
Yes.
If you could state your name for the record.
Jeff Adams.
And you swear to tell the truth under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of Washington?
Yes.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, I have reviewed the staff report and the attachments to the staff report, which included some aerial photographs, the application, and some additional documentation.
Okay. So the application for this, or rather this project, is a request for 5 variances as part of a building permit application to expand an existing mobile home residential park. As you can see on the map, this is located just south of the FCID Canal and the new Three Rivers Elementary School, and just north of Chihuahua High School. The zoning here is RP, which is residential park, and it has been zoned for residential park use since it was annexed in 1982. The site comprises 2 lots, one that is 0.69 acres and one that is 12.57 acres, which totals 13.26 acres. This is sufficient for manufactured home park use. And again, applicant is asking for an expansion of that use, and when they turned in the application, they were not pleased with some of the comments that were, or some of the requirements that the city has put forth for this expansion. There are 5 specifics that they had questions about. First one was minimum street width, 44 feet from curb to curb where on-street guest automobile parking is provided, or 28 feet where no on-street parking is provided. Number 2 is the loop at the rear of the parcel must be connected at 2 points rather than just one as shown. Let me go to that slide. So here we have an aerial photograph of the lot. As you can see on the yellow lines, those are the proposed lot configurations. The dotted line would be the street center line, And as you can see in the red, that would be the required secondary access that the city is requiring. The third item is a central recreational area shall be established. Item number 4 would be a recreational vehicle storage area. Number 5 is a planting strip not less than 20 feet in width to be located along all lot lines. The applicant has suggested that the following special circumstances are applicable to the property: limited land development area due to shape and topographical constraints, adjacent property topographical elevations and conditions, adjacent irrigation canal and overhead power lines, directly adjacent grass play field, recreational area. They're referring to the high school to the south. Size, layout of existing internal access roads, location of existing mobile home pads, and then the consideration that this is a lower income housing and it is designated as a 55 plus age community. We need to point out that as per Pasco Municipal Code, there are 3 criteria by which all variances are to be judged. The first one is special circumstances applicable to the subject property, including shape, size, topography, location of surroundings, which the strict application of the zoning ordinance is found to deprive subject property of rights and privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity and under identical zone classifications. The second one is that it would not be materially detrimental to the public welfare if these variances were granted. And finally, that the circumstances were not created through the actions of the applicant or any predecessor in interest. And according to PMC 25.195.020, all 3 of these above criteria need to be met in order for the hearing examiner to grant a variance. So those are the highlights. And if you have questions, I can try to help you with those.
Yeah, I did have a couple questions. It looked like in a couple places in the staff report, there were some references, some code provisions that may have been older. For example, like minimum, for each mobile home site, I think the minimum is 5,000 square feet rather than 3,000. It may have been at one point 3,000. The code online, I think, has it at 5,000 square feet, and the reference on the code is to Title 2575-050. I just want to make sure that there aren't any older provisions I need to be looking at that aren't all online, that all the code provisions are the ones that are currently online.
The current provisions would prevail. Those previous provisions were entered simply to point out that this has been zoned for mobile home use since the inception, since the annexation.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify that. And you summarized the variance criteria, and of course the applicant has the burden of proof. I don't kind of make policy decisions about kind of what's the best code provision, but rather these precise criteria have to be met for that. I assume on the minimum street widths and the requirements for curb and gutter, those are pretty standard requirements. Usually street width, I mean, that's based on engineering requirements, fire access, as is the secondary access requirement. Is that correct?
That is correct. These are safety standards.
And then the curb and gutter, my understanding in terms of how that works, curbs are necessary for a number of reasons, but one of them is it helps maintain the road, so you don't have the road edges that are flattening out over time as cars traverse the road, and so the pavement lasts longer. And then having the curbs in place, it directs stormwater, so you don't have erosion from that as well. Is my understanding of all that correct?
to the best of my knowledge. Those are engineering questions.
Yeah, no, and my understanding is these road standards are based on engineering considerations, and that's why they were adopted. Okay, I have a couple, I think, but I'll leave them for the applicant. So at this point, is the applicant present? If we can unmute the microphone so we can hear from the applicant.
Do you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're here. Sorry.
Okay. If you could state your name for the record.
Daryl Moore?
And you swear to tell the truth under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of Washington?
Yes.
Thank you. And Moore, could you spell that?
Moore?
Okay, thank you. Did you want to add anything to the staff presentation?
To the presentation, I mean, I have some concerns. I don't know if that's something we want to go over now or if that's something later.
Yes. Now would be the time to address your concerns.
Okay, so you were just talking about the roadways. So currently the existing roadway on site's 24 feet in width, paved with gravel shoulders. So the argument is, or the concern is the city's requesting wider roads in the very far back of the project. And the city's stating that that's because of an engineering safety standard issue. So in order for people to get to the back lots, you're stating that the roads up front are not safe. Is that?
Well, the way the code works, if a project's vested to particular laws and is built out to particular laws, and in this case, I assume the older standard was 24 feet, then the use is treated as non-conforming, and so it's not required to be built up to the current standards unless there is an expansion. And in this case, this is an expansion of the current use.
Yeah. So I guess the argument is we have to get back to the updated standard roads, you have to go on non-standard roads. You're conflicting. And the other issue is the curb. Curb has nothing to do with erosion or stormwater. These are private internal driveways. They're not necessarily, you could call it a road. But you don't have to have curbs to control stormwater or control erosion. From private development, the curbs are not used all the time. So the provision for the city to require curbs is for a private project that's privately funded, privately maintained, privately operated. It seems like they're just adding on top of extra, I don't know what the client doesn't want curbs. Nobody wants curbs. The existing property doesn't have curbs. So adding curbs, again, you have the front 3/4 of the site has 24-foot road, no curbs. And then the back 1/3 is going to have a 28-foot wide road with curbs. And there's really no benefit to add curbs to the project. It's very, very unusual for a private development to add curbs. It provides
my understanding of the code is that it is curb and gutter are standard for, you may have older development that perhaps didn't have those standards applied to it, but certainly within the city and in the projects I've reviewed, those have been kind of standard improvements. And I recognize this is an older development. Right.
So again, they say use a curb and gutter. So there's no defined curb and gutter to use. So, that's the issue. They talk about having a roadway, but they don't talk about roadway thickness or specific details. So the curb thing is really, really unusual. I've done projects.
One follow-up question. I apologize for interrupting. How many mobile home pads are currently there, and then how many are you all proposing to add?
50. There's 50 pads now, and we're adding 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 plus 6.
20.
20.
20?
Yeah.
Is that what I heard?
Yeah, 20.
20, okay.
And then the other issue, obviously with the secondary access piece, we did talk to the city initially with this and proposed a wider throat entrance rather than having the lower looping road. There are two factors. Well, the biggest factor is that the road, that if you have to have two roads in the back, you have to move a mobile home. I mean, you have to get rid of it. So that's a little concerning. We're not trying to deviate from safety. So having extra width up top provides provisions for just a wider entrance. If something is blocking, it can't block, a wider area. And additionally, there was no provisions provided for what is the requirement when you have to have a secondary road. Usually it's a lot more lots usually involved with having secondary access to lots. So, and we were never provided any specific reasoning why. So,
I think the trigger, and staff, when we come back to the staff, can correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the trigger was when you have 30 lots or more. That's when the secondary access requirement comes into play.
Okay, so we're only proposing in the back. We're only proposing, is it 14 lots?
14, yeah.
So.
And I think the way it's reviewed is you don't parcel apart the development, but you look at it as a whole for that trigger. It's my understanding anyway.
Well, you can also look at it as is, if you had a loop road for the front half, you could have a cul-de-sac on the back half. I mean, city provisions allow for dead end runs of up to 600 feet on a dead end cul-de-sac. So I guess it just, that's the argument. That's for the roadway components of it. We can go into the other. You want to go to the other components?
Yeah, if you could address, now's the opportunity to provide me with whatever additional information or arguments that you have.
As far as the recreational storage, obviously this site doesn't have a lot of room for recreational storage. None of the subdivisions around the area have requirements for on-site storage. But people want to store vehicles or whatever off-site, they are required to move them off-site to an off-site storage facility. So again, this is an older community, lower income. They don't have boats and RVs lying around, so it's not a need for the project. So that's in it. So, and then the other component was the screening. There's really not much to screen. You have an irrigation canal with overhead power lines to the north.
Just to clarify, that's on the north, runs along the entirety of the north side of the property. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And then on the east side is a small sliver of land that's owned by the school district. That's on sort of a slope. It has no value they can't sell it off or parcel it off because it has no access to it. So they have to get access to the school. So
It's on the south side, correct?
Oh, no, the school's on the south, but the eastern end is an undeveloped sagebrush sliver of land that the school owns. So you're not really screening anything ever. And then on the south side is the school, which the school was built and they weren't required to put a screen up. So those are the arguments for that. And then the topography wise, if you put a screen on the north side, it's not really doing anything because the north side's higher in elevation. You're looking down onto the site. So, and then the other thing is you're screening only, as far as frontage, you're only screening a very small portion of the project. It'll look weird where you're screening. You have this requirement for a small portion of the site versus the remaining site's not going to be the same. It's just going to, I know that's not really a good excuse, but that it doesn't fit the mold. And the other component is the recreational component.
I think one last question on the screening. There was mention of exactly is the trail? There's mention of a trail easement. And where exactly is that planned to run? Is that along the north side of the property?
No, there's no trail yet.
I don't know trail yet, but it sounded like in the materials I reviewed, it sounded like there's one that's in the works, and maybe planning can clarify that for me.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
It would be, I guess, it would be along the irrigation canal, but
that's my understanding, but I wanted to clarify that.
a lot of people use the irrigation canals for walking or running. And then obviously you have the school to the south, which has more recreational component. I mean, by the time you add RV storage and recreational play areas for this, which won't ever be used, it's a waste. And additionally, the other surrounding developments, residential, don't have requirements for recreational spaces per home. And then the city is also charging the client park fees. So, I mean, it's just, you see where I'm going with this. So it just doesn't fit the mold. I can see if you're developing a new park and you're doing it new and starting from scratch, those would be a lot easier to incorporate. This is already an existing park. Older community they don't use the facility for recreational purposes. And I think the other component, how many did I talk about? I can't remember.
We are putting a fence up on the north side, all the way around, slanted.
Okay. So the client they are putting a fence around the new portions of the development, 6 foot. It'll be screened with, chain link slatted type style fencing. So we're not saying they're not going to screen it, just adding the vegetation buffer is a big hindrance.
So that's what's being proposed. I'm sorry, just to clarify, is a 6 foot
chain link
fence with slats, and that is landscaped or not landscaped?
Not landscaped. Those would be yards.
Okay. And that would be along which sides?
The canal side, and then property. The whole property will have that.
Currently, at least where the new mobile homes are. Is that correct? Or for the entire existing development as well?
Yes. The south side of the project has a chain link on the existing with plastic slats screened.
Okay, so the south side already has that. Okay, and this would be, just to clarify again, this would be added to the entire north and east side, or just the newer portions?
Everything.
Everything. Okay.
Yeah. And then the front side, just FYI, the front side of the street side, road 84 North, they're putting in a block wall, screen wall.
The applicant
is doing that.
With vegetation.
Yeah, along with some vegetation along the front. I mean, they want this park to look nice. It's not they're not wanting to, make this thing an eyesore by any means. Did I cover all the components? I can't remember.
Lot size.
Oh.
We want to put some single lines in, and then lots are too big.
Oh, okay.
I need to address that too.
Okay. So we have another, the owner of the property.
Okay.
Here, he would like to say a few things as well.
Okay. I'll swear him in once you've completed your presentation.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Oh, I'll go ahead and swear him in once you've completed your comments.
Okay. So we talked about the roadway, secondary access, or recreation, storage, and screening. I think those are the 5 components. I think I've covered.
Yeah, I think you touched on them all.
Yeah. Okay.
Size of lots.
Size of lots we didn't have on that.
My question on the lot size, that was just a clarification question. I know that's not something that's before me. I just wanted to make sure I was looking at the right code provisions.
5,000.
Yeah.
And if we put a single wide in, then the lot's too big.
But you can address it.
Did-
Okay.
So your comments are finished. Do we want to go to the next party from the applicant?
Yes, I am finished.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And if the next individual who wishes to speak, if you could state your name for the record.
Bill Lewis, Lewis.
Thank you. And you swear to tell the truth under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of Washington?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Okay, I'm going to address what I'm trying to do here is, we got two beautiful schools on both sides. The neighborhood has really come together. We're putting a block wall up. We're surrounding the entire property with brand new 6-foot fencing with slots in it. We're dealing with people that the average age in there is probably at least 70. The lot size is really throwing us off a little bit because being required to put in 5,000 square foot lots on a home that's only 1,200 square feet to tenants that are, they're all on fixed incomes and they're not able to mow their own lawns or take care of them. So it's a burden on them because there goes another $100 at least a month to have somebody come in and mow it, let alone try to keep it green and flowers in it. As far as, what was the other ones we were talking about? Yeah, the roads and the curbs. Now I'm going through this park 100%. I'm putting a lot of money into this to make it look like it's new. We're going to redo all the roads. We're doing away with all the driveways now that are gravel. They're going to be all paved. We're taking out older homes as they come available, putting newer homes in or new homes. And, we really want to make this a first-class operation, but there gets to a point to where I'm only getting 20 lots out of that. And it gets to a point to how far do I want to go with this expansion and this kind of money to gain 20 lots. But I'm willing to go it if I can get some concessions on some of the things that is being asked of us, because some of this isn't reasonable to do.
And there's the rec storage. And
And the storage and the RV, there's one person in there that has, I think we have one person that has a RV and he stores it at an RV storage place. The rest of these people, if they can walk to the mailbox and back there, that's their day's exercise. And we're building a brand new building with indoor mail facilities for them. So, I've got to know these tenants very well and they're very appreciative of what we're doing. And this is their home. They making them put in the lots are the big concern for me because they're just not going to be able to take care of them, and you can't get any more money out of them. And that's a big one. The roadways, safety is one of our major factors because of the age of the group that lives in there. What else? Anything else?
I think that covers it. I think you covered it all.
Okay. I guess I'm done.
Right, or is that all from the applicant at this point?
I don't think we have any further comments.
Yes.
No, I think we're completed. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to clarify kind of my role on this, I don't have authority to decide kind of what's the best way to develop this or what kind of makes the most sense. I'm limited by the criteria, the code, which Mr. Adams had summarized earlier this evening, that there are special circumstances that the applicant did not create that apply to the subject property, and if those special circumstances, or if the code is strictly applied, it would deprive the property owner of rights enjoyed by others in the area. So it's not I don't make a policy call on what the code should or shouldn't say, but whether these precise criteria are met. So just to clarify that. So at this point, we'll open this up for public comment. If we could unmute the microphones for the public. Is there anyone here from the public who wish to testify on this proposal?
Madam Chair, there is no one else registered.
All right, as I noted earlier, we'll be keeping the record open just in case there was anyone else who wanted to testify and had difficulty calling in. Mr. Adams, is there anything that you wanted to add or to clarify? I know I had a number of questions for the applicant, and I think the applicant answered those questions, but I didn't know if there was anything that you wanted to clarify.
One point that applicant made about lot size was not actually part of the application for these variances. I just wanted to make that clear.
Yes.
That was not included in their
Yeah, I probably
request.
should have clarified that at the time. That's correct. The lot size is not before me.
Other than that, that's all we have.
And then, is there anything else from the applicant before we close the hearing that you wanted to add? Any last minute? And again, when I keep the record open, the applicant can provide comment as well. It's not just only for the public.
Yeah, maybe just a closing.
If you could just state your name again for the record.
Yeah, it's Daryl Moore with JUV Engineers. So yeah, we understand the codes, the way their codes are written, and understand your role as a hearing examiner. And I know you're not trying to, you have your job to do, and the city has their codes written. Just this particular project is, I think it's important for the community for it to go forward, just because it provides additional low-income housing, which is a necessity for the city. And the city should want something like this to happen. However, the way the codes are written, doesn't really apply to this particular project, the way it's already been currently developed and wanting to expand. We have the older park is in the front and we're developing mostly in the back. And it's like we're flipping this thing the wrong direction. So adding wider roadways, curbs, all these other amenities for the back half, mostly for the back. I know there's a piece in the front, but it's 6 lots, but most of the development occurs in the back. It just sort of seems counterproductive to making this work. And it just seems that if you're going to drive down a 24-foot road, which is wide enough for fire trucks, the road in there has been there forever. I don't believe there's any been issues for access for fire vehicle or emergency vehicles in the site. So to say that the 24-foot road isn't wide enough, and we have to put 28-foot roads in the back to get to you see what I'm saying? It's just doesn't make sense to have wider roads in the back versus in the front. And then adding the curb and gutter doesn't provide any benefit for safety or anything. It doesn't do anything. All it does is provide a tripping hazard for the older folks to occur. So just wanted to mention that.
I had one follow-up clarification. Yeah, I was just curious in terms of kind of how the proposal came about or the history on it. I don't need too much detail, but I was just curious because sometimes when you see an expansion, it's because a new parcel has been added. And it looks like on this case, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was some vacant area on this development or some area that wasn't fully developed. And so there's an opportunity to develop additional housing and the applicant's taking advantage of that. Am I correct on that?
That is correct. The reason why there's empty ground in the far east, correct me if I'm wrong, it used to, back in the, before it was in the city, back when it was in the county, there used to be a sewer drain field and all that stuff on that side, or some sewer systems that were done.
Okay.
And that's been removed. It's in the city. Everything's been hooked up by sewer. So that's why that ground is vacant. At one point in time back in the, 40 years ago, it was used for infrastructure purposes.
Sewer issues. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then in the lot to the northwest, the smaller parcel, there was a home on there. That home's been removed. Yeah. His home's been removed. So that piece was a separate parcel.
Okay.
It's a separate residence. Yeah.
It's a health issue.
All right. That helps. It provides some context for how this came about.
Okay.
Anything further?
Nope, I think we're good here.
Mr. Adams, anything
None,
further?
nothing from us.
Okay. All right. So I mentioned we're going to keep the record open. I think I will keep it open through close of business on Monday, August 17, and close of business is 5 p.m. So if there's anyone from the public who wanted to provide comment and were unable to do so for whatever reason, written comments should be submitted to the planning department, and the planning department will forward that comment on to me. And of course, the applicant and planning department can take advantage of that additional opportunity for comment as well. And then following the close of the record on Monday, August 17th, I'm required to issue a written decision within 10 business days. And then that will be emailed to the planning department and forwarded to the applicant and anyone else who would like a copy of that decision. Are there any procedural questions from the applicant or planning department?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. With that, thank you all for participating in this remote hearing. We are adjourned.